call of the Hogs can be heard all the way to San Francisco.
You're listening to Pod at the Palace with Curtis Wilkerson on Inside Arkansas.
What's up, everybody? Curtis Wilkerson with Inside Arkansas on the Pod at the Palace here for a quick rapid reaction now that it's officially official, or at least public knowledge, that Brandon McCoy is on campus in Fayetteville for his official visit to Arkansas. I was able to touch on this a little bit earlier on Inside Arkansas Live, but want to jump here on the Pod at the Palace and go a little bit deeper because this is something that we've been talking about happening for quite a bit on the show. If you've been keeping up, I would say the last week to 10 days, we've been pretty consistently pointing to this weekend for McCoy for that visit. But there was a reason that it wasn't greenlit for Joe Tipton, I believe, who put it out there first from the national scene on Friday afternoon, once he had already made it into town to begin his visit there. So, Cal he's been out on the recruiting trail all out east, right? In Cal Force One, visiting Baba Olatunji and Jordan Smith Jr. and IMG Academy and Tay Kinney at Overtime Elite and JJ Andrews, the newly minted 5-star, on the way back into town. And he made it back into town last night in preparations for this visit. And this is a big one, which for a minute there, didn't it kind of look like he was going to try to pull the old master of disguise bit again? I mean, remember shortly after he got to campus, after taking the job, that, Nelly Davis, he was the number one transfer in the portal, highly coveted. He snuck him in and out of campus without anybody knowing for a visit. And heck, he snuck 7'1" Paolo Samito in for a visit with nobody knowing. I don't know how the hell you do that, to tell you the truth. But now that Brandon McCoy's camp has put it out there, I want to just do a little bit more of an in-depth reaction and preview here so you know what you're getting yourselves into this weekend. And when we talk about priorities in this 2026 class for Arkansas, Jordan Smith Jr. is one who's been at the top of this list, right? But consistently since the summer, and we've relayed it on the show, I've been told to keep an eye on John Calipari with Brandon McCoy. And especially that would be the case if Duke was to push all its chips in on Jordan Smith Jr. They were also recruiting McCoy there. Well, that's not exactly what's happening here as both schools continue to prioritize and battle for Jordan Smith Jr. Again, Cal was out there for him to open the recruiting period that first morning, and Duke was out there. They did an in-home visit with him. They had 3 assistant coaches there with John Shire at his open gym. So both these schools are getting after it and trying to get him, as they should. But Arkansas is absolutely also prioritizing Brandon McCoy, and I would consider the Razorbacks to be one of the early front runners in his recruitment here. A race that's a lot more wide open than maybe it felt at times throughout the summer. Don't write off Duke with Brandon McCoy just yet. That's his only other stop that he's made so far. But Arkansas is in a very good spot here. Keep an eye on Alabama, who he's likely to visit, and you're also competing with for Caleb Holt, right, who just began his visit to Kentucky, actually, that SEC battle going on there. Although some other schools have been getting involved with Caleb Holt, Arizona being one of them. We'll talk a little bit more about that on a different episode. This is a Brandon McCoy episode. But, he's a Cali kid, Sierra Canyon now, so the West Coast schools like UCLA and USC, who's hosting Tyron Stokes this weekend, by the way, should be monitored here. But Arkansas having him on campus is massive. It's massive. Brandon McCoy, Rivals has him rated as the number 2 overall prospect in his class, and he's their only other 5-star not named Tyron Stokes. So that speaks volumes to how they evaluate him and value him as a player. 24/7 Sports, they just did their rankings update yesterday. We talked about it. They've got McCoy in their top 10, a 5-star in the rankings update. Now, I would argue he should be in their top 5, but I'm very bullish on him. But high praise across the board, as there should be. He's a 6'5" combo guard, another long, physically strong guard who I think he just really looks the part of that classic John Calipari type of guard. And you can't have too many of them because he has such a track record of success with them. And McCoy's decorated. He's got 3 gold medals under his belt already with USA Basketball. He's 17 years old. It's kind of ridiculous if you really think about it. He was on the U19 team this summer after, he missed a decent chunk of his senior season his junior season. And then I think the first 3 EYBL sessions with injury there, but he came back with a bang and he looked good, playing a role with USA Basketball. And then he came back with a bang with AZ Unity on the EYBL. Looked really, really good. Played in, the last session that they had, and then all the Peach Jam activities there. and put on a show. He averaged over, right about 20 points per game. I think it was 19.7 on 56% shooting. So highly, highly efficient during that last EYBL session and that whole week of Peach Jam. He's arguably the best defender in a class full of really, really good perimeter defenders. JJ Andrews being one of them, right? Who you've already got committed. So if you start thinking about who else could Arkansas add in this backcourt to complement him, it's going to be a nasty defensive duo no matter what they wind up doing. If it's Brandon McCoy, great. He's nasty. He averaged 2.8 stocks per game in EYBL play, and that's steals and blocks. He's super impactful there. And he's a guy who will, kind of pick you up and harass you the full length of the floor. And he's also getting out in passing lanes and getting steals. And he's very, very impactful on that end. So maybe it's him. Maybe it's Jordan Smith Jr., who's also just a tenacious defender to pair with JJ. Maybe it's Caleb Holt, another guy. All these guys kind of look the part too, where they're, it's just plus wingspans and very physically strong, kind of jacked, like college-ready frames. And all of them possess that. So one way or the other, like the future is going to be bright, I think, for Arkansas when it comes to perimeter defense. I like it. The 3-ball for Brandon McCoy, it's streaky, but it's coming along. And he had some big time games where you could really see the promise in it, the improvement that he was making in that jumper. And I got to say though, I think what I like most about Brandon McCoy is he's always going to impact winning because of how well he disrupts things defensively, how well he rebounds at his position, which is another plus attribute of his. But when he gets going, he can fill it up with the best of them from a scoring standpoint, an absolute bucket, and the bag is deep there. I want to play for you guys just a quick highlight clip. It's only about a minute long of a game when he kind of made his way back to EYBL, and it was late in the summer, and he goes for 38 points in this game. He was 13 of 17 from the field, and he splashed 4 threes. All things that you love to see there. So let's pull it up and take a look. You can just see, long as a Monday with those arms. Look at him. But just an ISO situation here. Gets the step back separation. Bang. There's that 3-ball. The percentages are what they are and everything. And I know you got to have, it's got to be a repeatable motion. And, you need the consistency. But it doesn't look like a bad jumper to me. Good player. He'll talk to you a little bit, which you love to see. There's a steal. Oh, impacting things defensively. Shocker. And that's a big dunk there. He's a highlight dunker now. He can take off on you for sure. Another pull up. That's tough. That's contested, off the bounce pull up, hand in your face, and it just didn't matter. Scorer, bucket getter. You guys seeing the theme there? He likes getting in that step back jumper, but then he can get crafty with it. That was nasty. Spin move, pivot, up and under, layup. That's a crafty finish right there. That's a high difficulty finish. It's a catch and shoot 3. Looks good. Like there's something to work with there. The pull up, you can see at times there was like a little bit of a hitch in that one. And so sometimes if he gets a little bit inconsistent there from 3 or gets streaky or misses a few, he just kind of has to correct that. But I like what I see there. There he is, rebounding at that position, finishing around the basket, and it was just bucket after bucket on these dudes. A highly efficient performance, offensive rebound, little tip-in action there. Good player, fun player. I like it. I like it, folks. How about John Calipari here? You've already got a 5-star on the books. Once again, shout out to JJ Andrews for getting that 5th star from 24/7 Sports, number 11 prospect in the country. I think he's the 5th highest rated commit for Arkansas in the modern rankings era. And then you've got like a half dozen visits of guys who are ranked ahead of him here. It's kind of crazy to think about. A top 5 guard in last week for a visit in Caleb Holt, and a top 5 guard in this weekend in Brandon McCoy. And you still got Jordan Smith Jr. on the books. Baba Olatunji is going to visit. Arifan Gian is going to visit. Abdou Toure, Tay Kenny still. Cole Clower still to come. So if you really think about it, this kind of has the potential to be a nasty class for a guy who has allegedly lost a step. Or is he still the most feared recruiter in college basketball? And, why doesn't he have as much talent as he used to? Poke that bear by all means. Poke the goat. Be my guest. Put the chip on John Calipari's shoulder. He likes to be viewed as the underdog, and he's got a chance here to put together a really, really solid class. I'm still fascinated to see exactly how it turns out. But what I'll tell you about Brandon McCoy, Arkansas fans, if you're lucky enough to get him here, you're going to love him because he's an absolute bucket. He gets after it on both ends of the floor. Kind of gives you that, that defensive hustle, blue collar type of mentality that you see from a Billy Richmond, who you love, who's endeared himself to this fan base the way he has, like freshman Devo, for example. And then he's a high-end lottery type of talent of a guy. So, and I like where Arkansas is at with him here early on. But appreciate everybody. Just wanted to hop in and do a quick rapid reaction to that and get it out to you guys so you can see it before we get into the weekend. And obviously, as we get a little bit of feedback on how the visit's going and everything like that, we'll catch back up with you. So subscribe where you need to get subscribed. The Inside Arkansas YouTube channel, wherever you find your podcast in audio form, whether it's Apple, Spotify, Amazon, you can find us there, and you can find us here next time. It's been Curtis Wilkerson with Inside Arkansas on the Pod at the Palace. Appreciate you guys. We'll catch you next time.